Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. It's your host, Sean. We are making pivots. We are making changes. We are having things that are just going to go the way that they plan on going. I have no idea how they're going to happen. I even thought about it. I need to change the title of these episodes. We're just going to call this, What is a Hard Left Turn? Because that is what we're doing today, folks. We're going to change the names of things. What's that saying? The names have been changed, but the stories are all real. And that's what we're doing today. So I wish a lot of luck to our prior guest. She had a family issue, and I understand that completely. I thought I was going to have one tonight, but was able to take care of it. So, So that being said, we'll give you a little bit of, for lack of a better term here for a moment, a look behind the curtain. That's how we're going to do this. We're going to should have called the episode a look behind the curtain. So what's up there, Shaggy? How you been, brother? So joining us from it's not quite the frozen tundra yet. It's getting there. Any day now, they'll have 75 feet of snow. Small children will be lost forever. And actually, that'll be one of my questions to see if she knows the history of what Smurfs really are. And we'll go through that. But joining us today, all the way from what'll it be for our budget blinds, folks? Miss Shannon Ferguson.
Why, thank you. I appreciate being your hard left guest tonight.
So we had to make it. We had to make one. So our guest that we were supposed to have had a little bit of a family thing. So I thought about, everybody knows who our sponsors are. We all talk about the big board behind me for Sticker and a Cause. And let's do that real quick. Everybody knows, like, if you got your own podcast, something you're supporting, something you believe in, whether it be, a band, anything, you can reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Our email is abovethebarpodcast@gmail.com. Our website is the Above the Bar Podcast. Reach out, let me know what it is. I'll tell you where to send that sticker to. We'll put the sticker up on the board and we'll read all about it. And then we got to talk about our sponsors, and that's Budget Blinds of East Greenbush, Budget Blinds of Hudson and Cooksaki, and Budget Blinds of Schoharie. They are the largest window treatment company in North America, locations all the way in Canada. They specialize in everything from shutters, shades, blinds, drapes, you name it. If it's a window, they can cover it. They even work with a company, folks, and I may have mentioned them before, that sounds like the greatest dive bar you've never been to, called Blinds, Corners, and Curves. They can motorize anything. If I ever open a dive bar, that's exactly what I'm going to call it. They can fight me on the name, and I'm calling it Blinds, Corners, and Curves. And you got to figure out what is what when you walk in. So, you could be blind guy, that walks into a curb and then ends up on a curvy lady. I don't know. It could happen. But they work with all these folks. And if you're in the capital region, you reach out to your local Budget Blinds and you tell them you're there to belly up to the bar. No matter what this sale is they've got going on, they're going to give you another 5% off of that sale. So make sure you reach out to Budget Blinds of East Green, Budget Blinds of Hudson and Cooksaki, and Budget Blinds of Schoharie. All right, Shannon, all the house cleaning is done. How are you?
I am fantastic. So
just so you know, folks, 7 minutes ago she was getting ready to probably go to bed or something like that.
I was in the reclining couch next to the fire. We were snug as a bug in the rug.
Oh God, where's my buddy Tony at? Where is
he's down there with the dog. I said to him,
God,
listen, Sean Murphy needs me. I gotta go. He said, oh well, I'll pause it. I said, it's not like that. I gotta do the podcast with him. He goes, I'll see you in an hour. So
what's up, Paris? What's up, Stacy? Well, listen, I mean, I owe Tony one. If he ever makes it down here to the capital region, I absolutely owe him at least one. Look, Paris, my people need me. You're lucky I didn't have your information. I'd have reached out to you also. We're going to do this about halfway through, and then we've got another guest that's going to come on, Brian. If Shannon's welcome to hang out with me and Brian, we're going to do some bourbon reviews. We're going to be talking about liquor and different ones. So we got to make these things happen. This is how
I'm
we
going to
roll.
learn something so I can sound really cool at Thanksgiving
That's
and
it.
sound like I know what's going on
Well,
about bourbon.
are you coming down to see me before Turkey Day? Am I going to see you before Turkey Day?
Not before Turkey Day. No, that's not going to
Okay.
happen. I only got so much time in the schedule. I'm going on vacation next week.
Well, see, then I was going to come by and get one of our, maybe someday we'll get them to be a sponsor. You get yourself a bottle of New Scotland rye, which is local here to the Helderbergs here in the
Okay.
and we make it happen. Paris
So,
is
so Tony does love his bourbon, his whiskey, all of that, and he's always looking for a new local. So
well. This one was actually bottled in 2024. This is batch 6, 5-year rye. Paris, listen, man, you know how to get a hold of me. We are connected. I will absolutely. I mean, your pictures. You got your headphones on, but what I figured Shannon and I could talk about, and this is near and dear to my heart. If none of you have ever figured it out, the reason Budget Blinds is a sponsor is because I own Budget Blinds. I own 3 of them. Look at that. Ta-da!
I am shocked.
Look at that.
No, not really.
Shocked, but not really, because we work together on this. So with that being said, one of the things that I would love to talk to you about, so you have a sales background, you're now doing this. You made, I'm in my opinion, that's a pretty big career shift from going to sales, what you were doing, to helping people oversee sales. But you're not directly like, you're not going out there. You'll help us, but you don't go out there and physically like, hey, go ahead and give me that window treatment. Let me tell you how to sell this thing. What was that transition for you to go from that corporate world that you were into every day dealing with small businesses?
So for me, I started cutting my teeth in sales when I was younger and through that. And I have to tell you something. I was not one of those pushy people in the beginning. And I'm still not, but I was one of those relationship builders. So I had to learn how to do sales on my terms that felt good to me. And the things that felt good to me were successful because it was more authentic. And then as I progressed, and as we know in sales, when you do well, more opportunities come for you. So I started running bigger teams, started running districts of that nature. So I had to teach people how to sell. And it's the same kind of as dealing with franchisees. Now I'm not out there actually selling blinds, but once you've sold and you've learned how to have those relationships in that building and make it authentic to you, you can really sell about anything.
That's the truth.
As long as I learn about it, I'm one of those people who sells because I learn about the product. I'm a teacher, toucher, feeler. Like, this is how I feel. I've had this, and I've been able to give personal testimony. So, and able to teach people who are kind of, how would I say, reluctant, because we get people all the time who says, "Oh, I can sell." Yeah, but you don't want to do the things that feel kind of uncomfortable and icky to you. So I was able to teach them what I was able to learn and make it authentic to me and translate it in a way that they can make it authentic to them. So the big thing, though, going from a kind of back corporation to a franchisee facing is I can't tell you, hey, you need to do it this way. I have to be more suggestive. So based on listening to what you do, taking your feedback or feedback from other franchisees and relating it in a way that is not going to sound preachy, that's not also going to diminish what you are doing as a business owner. And that's the balance, because when you are directly overseeing someone, you can be like, hey, you're messing up here, or
You
we need
suck.
you to do X, Y, and Z. See this bonus at the end of the year? You're about this far off of it. I need you to do this, this, and this in order to get that bonus and get whatever you need. Here, it's, listen, Sean, and he teaches me a lot of things. So
I know nothing. I'm completely clueless.
So, but this is what I've heard. Have you thought about this? I have seen, or I've talked to other people, and this is something that you may want to try. So it's trying to influence versus just bulldozing your agenda through.
Right. It's not you really can't just rock it through. Yes. Our other guest is like, "Hey, did you send me the email?" I'm like, "Yep,
No, this
send
is
it."
my time, other guest.
This is your time.
No.
Listen. I gotta keep everybody straight. Listen, I'm working on this. This is how things work here for me. But keeping with this theme though,
Yeah.
you've I mean, in your other industries that you were selling, and listen, folks, if you ever meet anyone who's truly into sales, that enjoys the process, enjoys sales,
Mhm.
you will think we're all psychopaths. And I'm not saying like in a dangerous way, but you're like, this is all you guys talk about. This is all you want. And everyone wants to tell the story of, dude, I had this one. Have you ever? Guess what they did? And I promise you, when we break them all down, they're all just about the same thing. You're just changing words like happy to glad and things of that nature because we really do. But when dealing with owners in this scenario, what I'm curious more so about is how do you get that person to kind of go, um, hey, I'm trying to influence what you're doing. I'm trying to get you to see things this way when they just will not in any way, shape, or form buy in. Like, is there a process? Do you have a process? Because I think it's also one of those kind of things that on the other side to it is if you have a small business or you're running a business and you're trying to get someone to do what you need them to do, it can be absolutely brutal sometimes to get people to just, hey, this is what I need you to do. This is
So
this is our process.
So there's not a one size fits all because, as we know, people and franchisees, all of that, all different personalities.
Right.
Uh, it really just starts with trust and listening in on the front side. Because listen, if nobody trusts you and nobody trusts that you ultimately want to see them succeed, nobody's going to ever listen to you. Or that my agenda is anything but wanting you to be successful. That's where it kind of comes into play. And sometimes you have people who are very receptive and they just want to take all the information you have, or they use you as a consultant in through that way. And right off the bat, and I think Sean, you and I right off the bat had a very good relationship. I came
Yes.
into this company. We had, I think, within the first 2 weeks of me coming in, I sat in on a call. I was able to, put my two little cents into something on
Yes.
marketing, like be like me, me, me. And then you were like, hey, you, you might provide value to me.
You might be somebody.
You might know something about something, maybe. So right away, we had that bond that you're like, hey, she might know something, but at the same time, I'm going to listen to what you have to say. There's other people that it's like, what are you about? You have a distrust of maybe the system or of what people really want. So it's how do I build upon those relationships with you, those impact points to kind of have you believe or start to believe and really know that I'm in your corner. And then once those things and that trust comes, and it could be, Sean, it's been anywhere from, like I said, you and I instantaneously.
Oh yes.
I had people. I'm a year and a half in this
Has it been a
company.
year and a half?
It is. It is.
Holy shit.
I know it is something. And to be a year and a half in, and now I'm getting people some people finally we've had conversations monthly or quarterly, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of listening. So it is a run. It is. But
If we weren't on this call, I could almost guess who it is.
I I don't think you could. So
Really?
yeah, don't
Oh,
think. But there's always different because we're in the relationship of people. We're in a people relationship, and it's what can you do for me? And I always call myself a franchisee concierge because
you are.
that is pretty much what I am. And you might want a different part of my skill set. You might want it in selling. Somebody might need me for marketing, which is something that I've done more education for myself to brush up on. Someone might need on people relationship skills. So I'm like a Swiss Army knife, and people are picking and choosing what they feel comfortable with me to lean on.
So that kind of brings me to another point, though, is and listen, folks, as we're talking here, one of the biggest things with all this that I want you to take from this is frontline leadership that is to me the most difficult leadership, even as somebody who 20 years in the Marine Corps learning leadership. It's always easy to lead people when they have consequences for not listening to your actions.
Mhm.
That's super easy leadership. I'm going to tell you that right now. I don't care who you are. You could think you're the greatest leader. Oh, I get everybody to do what I want. Well, understand that even for the most hard-headed employee, there's always that at least I'll say 20% of their mindset that says, well, I got to listen to this person or else this could happen, or else something could happen.
Mhm.
Whereas you're trying to assist and influence, and there's no consequences if they don't listen. I mean, honestly and truthfully, we could turn around and I could say, hey, don't ever reach out to me again. And you have no recourse but to go, I can't reach out to this person.
Hurt my
Yeah,
heart.
it
That
would.
would be
I
like the
can't do that.
dagger to my heart right there.
I can't do that. I need to hear stories about grandma. I gotta have my grandma stories. But honestly, that's really how it is. Is so in that influence piece, um, what are some of the I know you say you kind of like, hey, I heard, hey, you kind of massage the conversation,
Mhm.
but is there any for you, like for that other person that's out there that says, you know what, I'm in that role, like
Mhm.
I'm in an advisory role and trying to get people to do things, or maybe they're thinking about a consultative business model for themselves, because I mean that's really what your business model is consultative.
Absolutely.
Um, anything that you would say to them, like, hey, this is my ace in the hole, or this is my process to start getting them to listen.
So, one of the things that in my career, and it's been long, my career has been I've had the ability to
Like you're
work.
old or some shit.
Depends on the day.
In my old career, I've been at this for so long.
25 and holding, so it's not been 5 years and then just got promoted. But in my career, I've dealt with and I've been able to manage all ranges, generational. So I think about when I first started out in my managing career, it was people my own age. And then I got promoted to a different job, and it was people who were way older than me that should have known better, but yet were acting like they were teenagers.
Kids.
And, if you've ever had to tell someone who's as old as your grandmother to knock it off, don't hit somebody over the head with a hanger. Like these stories I could tell you are out of control in the retail setting. And
Isabel, stop hitting people with hangers.
oh yeah, because they took your sale, and having to sit and just really see where they're coming from. And then going from early when millennials first were coming on the scene, or it wasn't even Gen Z then, it was millennials, and how it was a different, there were more feelers. So I've had to learn to meet people where they're at and listen. And the one big thing is as well is never show anger, because when you show anger or you start talking at someone, what is your first reaction? If
You
I
go on the
just
defense. Yeah, you go right on the defense.
You listen to not a word I've said.
Yeah.
You went to shields up. Same with my husband. Tony will tell you the same thing. He's like, stop managing me. He tells me to stop HRing and managing him all the time. But it's become something that has now just become so innate to who I am and how I actually have been able to talk to people on a day-to-day basis and just in there. Because honestly, before I was very shy to talk to people, to call and order a pizza or to talk to a stranger.
Really?
That was Nobody ever believes me. And it was something that through just listening and being able to talk to different people and having that active listening conversation with them and finding out how people tick just really opened that skill up to me. So to be able to do that influence, to kind of circle back into that question that you first asked, it's really, am I listening? And then what are they really trying to say? And what is the underlying issue that they're having, or that impediment that has them to have their shields up? That has been the biggest thing that has helped me, because when you're younger and you learn things as you evolve. When you're younger, you want to show that you know things. I'm young and I should be in
I
this
know
position.
this.
Right. I might be younger than you, but I want to prove to you that this is how I can provide value. And then you start talking at people. Once you start listening, people put down their defenses. They feel listened to, heard, and then you can really kind of open them up to have a conversation and actually have that two-way feedback.
So now I love that idea of being able to get people to kind of pause, listen, operate on their level.
Mhm.
What about for you now that you've seen both sides to this uh with where you've got like, hey, I've worked this corporate side. Now I'm introducing myself into franchise world. If
Yeah.
somebody wanted to get into a franchise or was thinking about this, how would what would be the things that you would either recommend or even say to that person, like, I don't think this is your world? Both sides to it.
So I think being open to learn and open to opinions.
What do you mean?
Many people come into this. Everybody has experience that they're coming into with this. But I think if you're not going to be open to learning new things and opening that, yes, you have experience that's going to help you through things, but at the same time, there's new things for you to be able to listen and to evolve. Like you, Sean, you're a perfect example. You have all this experience, but you read. You're a consistent student. You're a consistent learner. I've never had a conversation with you once when you're like, well, back when I did this and I'm going to do it this way. You're always trying to build a better mousetrap. So, which very nice. I love the background.
To be able to do that.
So, and that's with anything, coming into a new job for that. I think franchising, depending on what you're doing, if it's a sales thing, like what Budget Blinds does, if you're direct to customers, you have to be able to sell. You have people that think, yeah, I can talk to people, no problem.
Oh, it's not the same.
It's not, because talking to people and forming relationships is one thing, but there's some things on the back end that might make you feel icky. The biggest sticking point I hear a lot is following up.
Oh, yes.
Offering a quote and then being like, see ya, peace out, and never hearing from that person again, where people are inviting you in because you're a small business. They think you're going to have that high touch. And if you don't follow up on that, you've kind of dispelled the myth or their thought that you're a high touch and you're going to be there every step of the way. So there's those types of things. If you can't get past that icky part of the things that make you uncomfortable, this might not be for you. And then, yeah.
Well, what about the absentee? Now it's interesting you say that, because I think sales is, most people think like, oh, sales is scummy and whatnot. No, it isn't. If you go listen to Zig Ziglar, and Zig will tell you that if you think sales feels that way, then you're not doing it right. Sales is about helping enough people get what they want that you eventually get what you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's a relationship process. But what about the other side? If somebody was thinking about getting into a franchise, but they wanted to be an absentee owner, and we're like, what's up, Eric Diva? Wanted to be an absentee owner, and like, well, I'll just hire somebody to do all those things. What do you think about those? Because I've recently talked to an owner who was kind of doing that, and I was like, you've got a problem, and here's why. But I'm curious from your end how you see that.
It depends, because if you have someone who you really trust and who is a better operator, and you have an operations person that can run that business, that's great. But we know to find that trust level, it's really hard.
Yes.
It's like a diamond in a rough. And to be able to have that person, and some people are like, yeah, I met that person off a resume. Everything seems great. And then they're an absentee owner, and then that person leaves, or they take their business is not doing what they need to be doing, and because they're not touching into that. I'm not a huge proponent of absentee owners. I think there has to be some level of you being in the business, whether it's just from you're checking in weekly, daily. You have to know the pulse of your business, especially when it's small like this. And I think even if it's a big business, even if it's a corporation, as we've read, I've read so many different books and sales books, those CEOs that are in tune with what is going on through the business, even at the lower levels. And it's not every day, but it's stepping foot into a store, stepping foot and seeing that. Those are the ones that usually have the biggest, best culture, the best following, and the sales, your sales and your bottom line just seems to grow because your people are invested. So it's a double-edged sword there. But for me, I think anything that I would be involved in, if it was myself, I'm going to have some level of oversight on. And it might not be to a micromanaging extent, but you got to know what's going on in your business, because we see this time and time again. How many businesses have you seen that there's these big things that get uncovered and the CEO is like, I had no idea.
Right. I had no idea that they were selling puppies out the back door. What do you mean you didn't know they were selling puppies?
I
don't
didn't know
know.
that toxic waste was getting poured into the ocean, or
I had no idea. But my tea time is at 9, so we need to make this conversation very quick. And
right.
moving on.
But absentee owners, I think you should have some. And now listen, there are some owners that have they're just very, they'll touch here, touch there. They do it nicely because that is what they've built their business to, and they have that infrastructure underneath them. But that takes time. This is not a out of the gate, hey, I'm going to hire this, and this person, because there's a learning curve and there's a trust curve. And I think sometimes we blindly give trust to people because we're so excited to get them in the business. Oh my God, they interviewed great. This person's going to be dynamic.
Awesome.
Fantastic. And then you let them go on autopilot. And then that's where they're like, oh, I'm watching Netflix during the day. Or, hey, I took off at a tea time. I've seen it so many times, not just in franchising, but just in business in general.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you put it that way, that I think a lot of owners in businesses make the mistake of expecting the employee to care as much about the business as you do, especially in today's society where everyone wants to say, well, I'm willing to come into work at 11, but I need to be gone by 12 and I need a 1 hour lunch break.
Yeah.
Like that's the current mindset towards things, or at least that's how we see things. There's no vested interest. I would tell anyone, if you really want to understand a lot of corporate mentality, if you want to change your corporate mentality, go read Henry Ford, My Life, My Work, and find a guy who, before you worry about Bill Gates or any of them that built things in his garage, find a guy who not only did he build it in his garage, I don't know if you knew this. Did you ever read that book?
No, I didn't.
In that book, one of the things that Henry Ford talks about is the first company he ever worked for back in the early 1900s. They told him that, we're going to build electric motors. That's really what's going to be the thing, is electric motors. Think about that. Henry Ford talked about electric motors, and then went and talked to Alexander Graham Bell, and was like, Edison, and was like, hey, I'm working on this thing called a combustion engine. And you would think of all the people in the world, Edison would have been like, dude, that's stupid. We're going to do everything electric. Edison was like, tell me more about this. I want to learn about this. I want to understand this. And the reason I tell you that, folks, to read that is that's a guy who, if you want to learn how to run a business, he not only did he know everything, but he hit a certain point and was being interviewed. And the interviewer went to him and said, well, tell me about this, answer this, answer that. And he told the guy, he goes, okay, hold on a sec. Got on the phone and said, send me in Mr. Whoever. And the guy looked at him and he goes, ask him the question. And the guy asked him the questions, and the guy gave him the answers. And the reporter was like, well, you don't know these things. He goes, I don't have to know them. I hire people that do. I have to know my business. And that's one of these things when look at that. See, I get thumbs up. Watch this. You ready for this one? You see that one? I love these things. Folks, if you're not watching me live and you don't have all the gestures figured out, Brian's in the background right now. He hasn't looked up at the gestures yet. You ready, Brian? Look, you ready for this one? Look at this one here. Look at that. But this is important stuff here. And look, understanding businesses, understanding how the process works, understanding how to get into it. Everything is about sales, and you're always selling. And part of this selling, besides having just being able to say, hey, I sell this, I sell that, you have to understand that in today's market, and that's why I'm bringing Brian on for a second. Brian does bourbon reviews. In today's market, your reviewer no longer is, hey, I've got, oh, I need to talk to the newspaper. Oh, this big media outlet is going to review me and they're going to say great things about me, or they're going to have me on the local small business review on the news. We now have folks like Brian who says, you know what? I like bourbon. If you're not watching him live right now, folks, and you want to know what he's got going on, Brian's bourbon review on TikTok, you can see what he's got going on. He still has the best mustache in the business, and I wanted to keep Shannon on here.
Glorious.
It is a glorious mustache. If I had his mustache with this beard, I could take over the world. I'm just telling you that right now.
I don't think we'd get through one meeting, Sean. If that happened.
I would just be stroking the whole thing. I'm already bad enough that I do this all day long. You do that, yeah. But the reason I wanted Brian to come in during this conversation is this is a person, when we talk about business, who can influence your market, and you never knew he existed. You never knew he was part of your world. You never knew that he might be, depending upon how many followers the person has. We now have, no longer do we have just the major influencers. You have, what do they call them? God, what's the right term, Brian? For people that have like $20,000, $20,000 micro influencers. They're micro influencers that will influence your business and affect your business, especially if you're a local small business. So joining us, folks, from parts unknown, somebody who has become a good buddy of mine through TikTok. This is the power of the internet also, and social media. Brian and I didn't know each other from a hole in the ground, and I just sent him a message one day. I was like, come on, let's talk about bourbon one day. And we got on TikTok live and talked about it. But we're talking, Brian, about sales and running businesses and small businesses. As a person who does reviews, have you seen anything from your end where like a company has come to you and said, hey, man, review this for us? Or, hey, we saw your review. Why did you feel that way? Any of those type of things?
Yeah, I had not just myself, but a number of the bourbon guys had Limestone Farms send them bottles to try. They looked at our fan base. They looked at where we were at, what our audience was, and they reached out to us on the messenger on the TikTok and said, hey, try these bottles. Here's the order. Here's this. Give us your honest review. They used it for free marketing, and we got to have free bourbon. So they're opening up a huge facility, and I'm going to throw a little shout out there. Georgetown, Kentucky, Limestone Farms. They're going to open a huge distillery with tons of stuff for the family to do. I don't know that I'll ever make it to Georgetown, Kentucky. It's a very long way from Gordon, Texas, but we will see. But a lot of people have sent that stuff out. They want to hear everybody's opinion and see what their product's like. But it doesn't happen a lot because I only have like 1,600 followers. So.
But I mean, that's still 1,600 people that you influence who, if you go through the law of averages, every third person is really actually paying attention to you. So if you figure in that math, you have over 500 people that are paying attention to anything that you put out, whether they like it or make a comment on it. You saying, hey, this Limestone bourbon, that's pretty good. Or hey, their bourbon's good and their rye is garbage. That affects what's going on. I'm curious, though, between the two of you, how can, and maybe you can talk on it with what your experiences are, Brian, or Shannon, from your level, how can small businesses use, and I think mine's kind of a unique one to try to figure out how I could, but how can small businesses at their level use the TikTok and the Instagram? And I think Instagram's kind of gotten away from the small business, in my opinion, but especially the TikTok to influence what they do.
So I think from my perspective, in just looking at a couple things through marketing, all of that, especially TikTok, a lot of people are there to be entertained. So if you can have an entertaining content on TikTok, and it's quick, because we all know that our attention spans now are, squirrel. I mean, how many times do you watch TV and then you're scrolling on your phone or doing something else? I have to be doing something. My phone is like my fidget spinner. So
yeah,
I think if you're creating quick hit content that is entertaining or, hey, that's a wow factor, that is going to draw influence into and set you apart from anybody else that is doing content or not even doing content. And that's the big thing. There's a huge, especially for a demographic that didn't grow up with a TikTok or, Instagram, all of that, there is a huge hesitancy to really immerse yourself into it. But those that are really, just grabbing on and holding on tight for the ride, they're seeing gains.
What do you think, Brian?
I don't know. I'm so nervous to be on this podcast. I'm getting stupider by the minute, to be honest with you.
Come on, stop. All right, hold on. Here, let's help Brian out for a second. Brian, what bottle you got next to you?
I don't have anything. I'm not drinking
anything. Grab a bottle. You got, listen, grab a bottle. First one, grab it for me. This is how we're going to do this. Grab it. What do we got? Eagle 10 year?
Yes.
All right. So this is how this works, folks. If you have a small business and you can find somebody like Brian, we're going to put Brian on the spot for a second. We'll see how well he does. What would you say about Eagle 10 year, Brian?
Well, obviously I would pour. I don't have a glass with me, but
oh my goodness, just pour it right in your gullet, just straight into the gullet, Brian.
I should have, but that looks unprofessional at the same time. So I'm going to put it in a wine glass off the camera. I don't know. Here's the thing about the small businesses. I don't like taking stuff from small businesses. I'm not worried about Buffalo Trace sending me a bottle of Eagle Rare and rating it online. Right. But I had a guy reach out to me today and say, hey, I'm sending you a mug. He's a small town firefighter. I say small town. He's down around San Antonio, Texas. He's a firefighter. He has a Bombero's mustache wax. And he wanted to send me something. And I said, look, man, I've been trying to buy your product, but it's making me log in to Google. And I'm an old guy. I don't want to log into nothing. My wife was in there. I was screaming at this computer for the last 5 minutes while my wife was like, calm down. I was so mad before I got in here because the link you sent me on my phone went straight to this, but the computer, I couldn't get it to work. I don't like taking from small businesses like his, like the Bombero. I don't want him to send me free stuff. So I said, I'm not going to send you my address till you send me a Cash App. So he sent me a Cash App Square. Now I will get online and review and rate everything he does. If Buffalo Trace wanted to send me something free, I don't care. Right. Let them send it to me. They make bazillions of dollars off of us all the time. But the small businesses that are trying to get out there, we need to try not to take advantage of those people, especially when they're your friends, right?
That's
I have friends that have lots of small businesses, and a lot of times we expect something from them. Hey, you're my buddy. Can you come mow my grass tomorrow? I know you got a landscaping business. No, that's not how life works. We have to pay each other, right? They're going to, if you want to help me move, fine. We're getting too old to ask people to help move. Just rent a U-Haul. But I hate using people, and I don't want these small businesses to think that that's what we're out to do.
That's a great point. Like Brian, you're bringing up a great point that, and especially, hey, just a reminder, folks, Black Friday is next Friday. Small Business Saturday is right after that. Budget Blinds East Greenbush, Budget Blinds Hudson Coxsackie, Budget Blinds Schoharie, just throwing that shit out there. If you're one of my followers and you've signed up to get the SMS messages, there's something coming on Black Friday, so pay the hell attention. But real quick, Paris over on Instagram, a couple of real quick things. He said, absolutely fidget scrolling on TikTok. He also says, Vine was the closest I can remember that was built for the format that makes TikTok so bingeable, which was true. I missed the Vine. That 6-second video was absolutely perfect. And I almost wonder that if they didn't know that we need, they wanted to make a bigger format, and that's why they killed Vine. Like, because let's kill Vine and we can make a bigger format. And this one's definitely for you, Brian. He says, right in the mouth cup, that mustache makes it professional. So that's right for you.
So I think, Sean, just kind of circling back to that sales and what Brian said, I read a book and it kind of just really impacted me. It was from a social hacker, and it was, gets paid to infiltrate corporations, see their security and all of that. But his premise was to leave people better off than when you met them, than when they met you. And I think Brian's philosophy, and it's the same in sales. That's always been my philosophy in sales, or even helping right now. Have someone be better off for having met you and do no harm. And
I love that. I love that. You know what, folks, and I'm gonna take a page out of Brian's book here, and I'm gonna say, if for anybody who watches this and listens to this, if you expect a small business to give you something, I think, now that's not saying, hey, call up all the small businesses and be like, hey man, give me your Cash App and give me some stuff. Well, that's called sales. That you're just buying something from them. But if a small business reaches out to you and says, hey, in my case, I've had some reach out to me for beard wax or beard balm, because I use beard balm every day. But you bring up a great point. Like, what's the one that I can't think of the one I'm using? Burt's Bees. Like, if Burt's Bees contacted me right now and was like, hey, we want to give you a case. Cool, man. I'll take a case. Yeah. But if Phoenix Shaving, who's a buddy of mine, was like, hey, Murph, I want you to advertise this one I've got here, I'd probably be like, now that you say that and I think about it, I'd be like, all right, bro, at least let me throw you a couple bucks. Let me pay the shipping and handling at least. Right, and send it out to me. So I think we all should do. I think that's what we should all be thinking about, because we can bitch all we want about big corporations and what they're all doing, but it doesn't do us any good. And if you're watching this live, folks, for those that are watching live, if you have questions for Brian about how do you get a mustache that big, or for Shannon, how did you get your hair to glisten so much today, to get a good glisten? She just had it did, because that's why I was picking on her and saying that. But if you did have questions about businesses or doing reviews, or how do you sit down to get ready to do a review, I can tell you right now, I'm not a great reviewer. I'm a great talker, but those quick hit, like, hey, it tastes like this, I have notes of that. That's not a me thing. For you, Brian, I got to ask, like, how do you even get into that to be able to explain those things?
So it started off years ago when around 2016, 2017, life was getting pretty rocky. Started drinking a lot. I drank way too much, had some issues, ended up getting divorced, got remarried. And I enjoy drinking, but I have to do it in moderation. So I told my wife, I'm going to buy a bottle of bourbon and I'm going to drink it straight, because that's hard to do, right? It's hard to just grab one and just turn it up and spend the evening just getting drunk as you can get. But you start putting Dr. Pepper and all kinds of stuff with it, and you can drink a lot more. So yeah. I just picked up a glass and smelled it and started. And then I started reading on the internet and looking at tasting notes and reaching out to other people, talking on the internet, on TikTok, talking with people that did it. It started off, my first TikTok was Mason jar bourbon. And then I realized you heard of that. Well, I was drinking my bourbon from a mason jar.
Oh, okay. Now that makes sense.
That was my first TikTok account, and somebody reached out and said, hey, you know what? Like, it's cool that you're drinking it out of a mason jar, and we get it, you redneck, but you can't get all the flavors and the everything from the nose and all that stuff unless you use this type of cup or this type of cup. So I went to I'm drinking out of my wife and I's favorite winery wine glass.
Bro, like, I've had these glasses, like, originally they had gold and black on them. They've been in the dishwasher for so long that, like, that shit's gone.
Right.
Oh yeah. Like, I might
you just reach out and start reading about the bourbon. Oh yeah. Start reading about the bourbon, and a lot of the distilleries and stuff will tell you what you're supposed to taste, and then you feel like what it is. One thing about Eagle Rare that I don't chew gum. It's a weird thing about me. I don't chew gum. I don't want to be around it. I don't want it in my house. I'm not the boss of the house, but like, really? I don't want it. Yeah, it's weird. It's just a weird thing.
Like, were you traumatized by gum?
I don't know, but it makes me mad every time I step in it. So
that's fair. Listen, I'll give you that. I would agree with that.
I can't stand it. I do not like chewing gum. And unfortunately, this Eagle Rare, I read something one day where it had a little subtle bubblegum flavor, and I can taste it every time I drink it now. Yeah. So I did a Eagle Rare 10 and a Russell's 10 review side by side the other day. And I said, this is obviously the Eagle Rare because I can taste the bubble gum in it. But it's just to learn how to do that. I'm not that good. It's just my main thing is, will it drink neat? Can someone like Shannon, who may or may not drink very much, grab it and drink it, or is it going to burn their throat really bad? And that's the main question that I started with. Then I started getting into all the notes and reading about the bourbons and stuff.
That's such a great question right there. And we're getting close to closing the bar here in about 15 minutes. But that's such a great thing that, the influence of, staying with marketing for a moment here, the influence of marketing. One person made that comment, which implanted it into your head, something that you've never picked up on, but now instantly you pick up on it. It's funny you mentioned about the burn or not. That's probably one of the things I first pay attention to when I drink a bourbon or a whiskey. Like, listen, I make no bones about it. Cooperstown is by far the worst I've ever had in my life. It might be good for cleaning buckets of shit. It's horrible. It's a horrible bourbon. I don't know. I got the bottle sitting right here next to me, and it blows my mind that it was a Jim Murray's Whiskey Bible 2019 Liquid Gold Award winner. I'm like, that must have been before we had whiskey. It's that bad. Like, it's this
It
bad.
wasn't popular back in the day. It wasn't as popular as it is now.
Oh my God, it's so bad.
Still got it. You didn't
have the bottle because I'm not going to throw a bottle out. Look, if I don't like you and you're like, hey, give me some, I'm like, here, you can have this. What you're not getting is this one right here. Like, this is one that both Brian and I like. This is Redwood Empire. Like, you're not getting Redwood Empire. You can have Cooperstown.
Yeah, my kids come over for Christmas and they get Travelers.
Yeah, right. Nothing's better than, like, I'll have to see if I can find a bottle. I keep telling you I'm going to send you a bottle of this New Scotland. But if you really want to find a bottle, is the one that says military special that is sold on base. They sell military special vodka, military special rum, military special whiskey. These are handles in plastic bottles.
Is it rock gut? Pretty much just.
You could probably polish the bottom of a ship to take barnacles off with it.
That would get me punched in the face.
Oh, dude, like it is serious. Now, for you, Shannon, Paris just asked, Shannon, what is your favorite book related to marketing / sales you would recommend?
Oh, how much time do we got?
Just one off the top, one off the rip.
Marketing and sales. One that always kind of stands out for me. There was one that was Hug Your Customer, and it was pretty much, it was old school. It was old school about it was how a department store really kind of built their base and through there. And that always just kind of stood out for me. That just the care that they put in and the marketing that they kind of do, but it was an old school one. And it's sometimes I think we get so about the bright, shiny new thing, like the TikTok and all that. It's a necessary thing to do now, but we forget about all of the tried and true things that have been in sales and will always consistently be there, and the basics.
I would agree with that. Now, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you tell me you were a firefighter or something like that?
Yes, I am. I'm a lieutenant at Station 47.
So I'm thinking about this for a second, kind of going back to something Shannon said earlier, and we were talking about, and this has to do with marketing and sales and leadership. You're in a role that typically you're the lieutenant. I have to listen. That I have no other. There's always that, like I said, that 20% of the conversation, whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
I have to listen because my job's on the line in some way, shape, or form.
You can do anything you want to do one time.
But now, one of the things we talked about was, how do you influence people in a way that if there's somebody, like maybe it's another lieutenant, where they know, like, hey, we sit parallel on the org chart. You ain't hurting my feelings. Right. The most you could do with something is roll it up real tight and stab me in the eye with it.
Right.
What do you do you like that one, Shannon? I used to say that all the time. What do you do to help influence or to get people to understand? And look, if you're giving away a trade secret, I'm sorry.
No, it's not. It's the easiest question for me in the world. Number one, it's humility. Number two, it's treat people like you care about them. When you leave my station, whether you're there for 24 hours or you're my full-time guy, when you leave there, you think I'm your best friend. I'm going to treat you respectful. I'm going to be humble while I'm there. Just because I'm a lieutenant with X amount of years doesn't mean that probie coming out of the fire station knows a better way to throw a ladder than I do. We're going to go out. We're going to learn together. We're going to train together. We're going to be equals. And I don't have to pull rank on people when you treat them like that.
And what part of Texas are you in?
Fort Worth. It's west of Fort Worth.
Shannon, you know what this means, right?
Fort Worth.
I'm there in 2 weeks.
We butt to Fort Worth. Our fire department does.
So we go to Grapevine.
Okay, yeah, we're a little ways from Grapevine, but yeah.
I mean, so we'll have to next time. That just makes even more reason. Drapery school. I'm gonna go for drapery school. We'll have to come down and find you. Now,
absolutely.
We're gonna go into a little bit of another left turn into all this, and we made a left turn to have this entire show, and we hope that our person that was supposed to be our guest, her son's doing all right. He got a boo-boo. I'll leave it at that. I don't know what happened, but one of the things I always like to talk to people about is food. There's a little chubby kid that lives in my soul, and sometimes I think it still goes in the sales here, folks, because sometimes you have to sell people on the idea of what they're eating and that it's worth eating. But I'm going to ask this question. So we'll start with Shannon. So Shannon's in an interesting area. You should know where Shannon's at just based on this question right here. Shannon, ranch or blue cheese?
Blue cheese.
Do you know what that? That doesn't make sense to you, Brian?
He's got to be a Yankee.
What's got to be Buffalo? Buffalo wings.
You put ranch on my wings. Get out of my town.
They're very weird about
everything.
Or get out of my stadium, first of all.
They're very weird about it. It's all about the blue cheese.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be like if I asked you, Brian, you ever had a beef on whack?
Had a what?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's this weird ass sandwich. It's a roast beef sandwich with like this roll that has been salted, like the Dead Sea has been put on top of it. And they're actually, like, if you find one that's not so bad, they're pretty decent. But boy, sometimes the rolls are what, Shannon? What do you make?
I'll take you to the good places. He's not painting it in the best picture.
But my question is sell me, and what I'm curious of is, for you, Brian, do you have, like, in your area of Fort Worth, you said you're west of Fort Worth, that's called New Mexico, isn't it? You there, Brian? Did I lose you? I think I lost him.
No, he's
there.
Can you
hear me? Brian, can you hear me?
Oh, maybe.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? No, nothing. We lost all sound.
Him with blue cheese is better than ranch.
We probably did.
The deal breaker.
So up in Buffalo, I mean I might have just gave it away there, Shannon. But tell us what is your go-to meal and beverage combo?
Well, it depends. If I'm going for glory that day, several things. If I'm going for glory, so roast beef on whack is always great with light horseradish. Not overly salty, because I don't like overly salty. Just like you, Sean, I will brush away some of that. But then if I'm doing the whole trio there, then we do red hots. So they're
hot dogs.
The hot dogs, they're Salins, and they're charcoal. They're over charcoal fire. The only way you can do that, and they are not burnt, but they're nice and crispy and almost black, and they are absolutely delicious. That is how I'm rolling. And the other thing there is, you know what? I still think you can't get better chicken wings outside of Buffalo. So I'm going mild extra crispy. That is how I'm rolling. And I am rolling out with my inner fat kid that day.
And what are we having to drink with all this?
So before I got a red dye allergy and I can't drink it anymore, Loganberry shake. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Loganberry. That's
all you whack jobs out in the western side of New York. Brian, you get any sound back yet, brother?
I can hear her, but I can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
Sorry.
You're
Weird.
You're breaking up, but I can hear her.
That is so odd. But what's funnier is that you answered me.
Let me.
All right, I told him to log out, log back in, see if that works for him.
So we're whack jobs over in West.
Yes, because like that's such a like when I moved up here, like you guys and the whole Loganberry thing, like Saratoga's big for it. I'd never even heard of a Loganberry.
Well, Melba sauce is more your neck of the woods. That Melba sauce.
What the hell's a Melba?
It's like a blue blackberry kind of dipping sauce. Go to Kay's. Kay's will have it. That's how they dip their stuff.
Oh, you're talking about? Listen, Kay's. I know what you're talking about now. I will tell you right now, there is nothing more amazing than a popper, like a jalapeno popper, in some Melba sauce, like raspberry sauce or Melba sauce, as you're calling it, raspberry sauce.
Yeah,
that is absolute glory. Paris says that's almost as good as snozberries. The Loganberry is almost as good as the snozberry.
Snozberries taste like snozberries.
Snozberries.
Daddy, I want a Loganberry now.
Anything, Brian? You getting us at all? Oh, he's in and out.
Turning. We are left turning.
We are This is the best though, is when you start making some hard left turns into some things. Like I don't know, but we didn't get you tiny hot. And I tell people about this all the time. When you come down to Albany, you gotta have tiny hot dogs. I didn't take you to have tiny hot dogs in Albany, did I?
No, we didn't have tiny hot dogs.
Yeah, we gotta have tiny hot dogs in Albany. Can you hear me now, Brian? Brian, you good? Yay? Nay? Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down.
I don't know what it is. I can't hear anything. It just sounds like static.
That's Can you hear me? Weird. Can you hear? But you can hear Shannon.
I'm sure it's my internet. I live in Gordon, Texas, the littlest town of 400 people. So
somebody's watching adult videos in your town and messing up the whole internet.
So no, tiny hot dogs. You took me for a pilgrim sandwich, which I dream about. So
I was there today. I was there today. I was there today with my spring rep and the new spring rep from Boston, New Hampshire area.
Okay, yeah, the pilgrim sandwich that was aces right there for me. So I was good. But honestly, when you come visit me, I'll have Tony. He makes a to die for chicken piccata and his fettuccine alfredo. We'll probably have to have the chargers on standby for you for the clear, but
for the heart.
Oh man,
but you say that, but I mean, if I'm headed out that way, there's something I like better on the way. Like I love good wings. I love a good garbage plate. I love a good garbage plate.
Garbage plate. You know what? Keep drinking that whiskey. That's the only, or bourbon. That is the only time when garbage plates are a good idea. And if and you should tell people if they've never heard of a garbage plate, what is on a garbage plate?
Everything. Like whatever you want. Like we used to go to a place down here in Albany that did a garbage plate, and theirs was it had like macaroni noodles and chili and 2 burger patties on top of French fries. Like it was you hear me yet, Brian?
Yeah.
Like their garbage plate, like the fact that it had cold small noodle macaroni salad on top of chili, on top of burgers, on top of French fries was the most glorious thing in the world.
So I've lived that life, Sean. I've lived that life. And it's, your bed of home fries. You got the mac salad on there. Then it's either 2 burgers or a burger and a dog, 2 dogs, whatever kind of combination of abomination you want on there. Then with a chili meat sauce dumped over it. And then half a loaf of French bread to wash it all down. Yes. So
doesn't this sound glorious, Brian?
Well, it sounds like she's talking to a guitar. So I can't understand that. It's just like, bow, 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 bow. That's all I heard. But, I mean, you were talking about all this piled up food. I used to go to a place called Big O's. It was out in Valera, Texas when I lived in Coleman. And I would get a plate that had 2 half-pound patties. In between those patties were grilled onions, grilled jalapenos, and cheese. White gravy. French fries next to it was covered in white gravy, and that was our lunch. And it was amazing. Then I had to get in shape. now I have meal prep made with steak and protein pasta. So,
Oh, that just sounds glorious, though.
You
Absolutely.
need a whole thing of Tums for that.
Listen, folks. I mean, there's, as I always say, and I will tell folks that, as odd as this would sound, um, as you go west in New York, the cities have very unique foods that you never hear about anywhere else in the country that I got to learn about. Like I said, we all know about buffalo and wings, but you will find that if you go to Buffalo, um, the Anchor Bar and what's the other one?
Duff's, but the
Duff.
new one is Barbell. That is Josh Allen's favorite. Just saying.
But those kind of places they're the tourist places. They're good wings, but they're not the best wings in town. There's going to be somebody else who's now mastered it. I will tell you the best thing I ever had up in that area is a place called Mr. B's Steak Sandwich. Mr. B's is in Niagara Falls. Have you ever been there, Shannon?
I have.
Mr. B's Steak Sandwich. You'll love this one, Brian. It's a 9-ounce steak on a ciabatta bread with two blue cheese stuffed pepperoncinis. That's the sandwich. Oh, with mozzarella provolone on top.
The people up northeast know how to make sandwiches.
Yeah,
yeah. Like they can make some sandwiches up in Boston and stuff. I've been to Boston one time, and your little lobster sandwiches. I don't know what they call it.
Lobster roll.
You don't get anything like that down here. Not good.
And what's funny, you say that the best sandwich I ever had in Boston, and we're going to get ready to cut this off here soon, but the best sandwich I ever had in Boston is a place called Owl's. There's a couple of them around town. The one I used to go to was in the financial district close to the Amtrak station. By far, bar none, the best chicken salad in the world. Chicken salad sub with Italian hots on it. Complete game changer. And it was $7. Dude, the whole sandwich was $7, and it was like a 12-inch sandwich, and we would buy two of them, one for lunch and then one for while you were on your trip back on the train. Awesome. But you've never probably been to have you ever even heard of Utica, New York?
No. My sister lived in New York. She was a buyer for Ross. She lived at Trump Palace.
Okay, so she lived in the city. Utica is like right next to the land that God forgot. Like it was only ever known for the longest time because there was a military base that got closed during the BRAC Base Relocation and Closure Act. Thanks to the who was that? That was the Clintons. They closed all those bases. But food wise, I will tell you it's the best kept food secret in all of New York. Huge Italian population there. Now it's Eastern Europeans, but they do chicken riggies, which is rigatoni with chicken and a almost vodka sauce, but with roasted red peppers and like pepper flakes in it. They do tomato pie, which is an interesting one. Philly will fight you on the tomato pie because Philly says they're the home of the tomato pie. Philly is a big tomato pie place. Absolutely. Don't make faces at me, Shannon. Philly is when I came up here and people were like, "Oh, Utica tomato pie." I'm like, "That's Philly." And Philly's a big tomato pie place. Dude, tomato pie is nothing more than a pizza with sauce on it and Parmesan cheese sprinkled over top of it. There's no that's like tomato
budget Chicago style. Like it's
it's Sicilian style too. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing they do though is Utica greens, which is like Italian greens that are like spicy. Like, dude, Utica is like this little, like you would drive right past it, never know you were even there, and they just kill it on the food scene. Absolutely kill it. So, as always, folks, there's a chubby little kid that lives in my soul. I have to thank my friends Shannon and Brian for coming on here and rescuing the show a little bit, because if not, you'd have listened to just me for an hour babble on about shit that I was just randomly thinking about. So it could have been anything from how my beard looks to how my toenails are growing. So thank God that they were willing to pop on here and have a conversation with me. Shannon, if people wanted to follow you and see what you had going on, is there anywhere they could find you, like on LinkedIn?
There isn't. So I have no traces, but they can always find me through you, Sean.
All right. Well, if you want to start a franchise of your own, you're thinking about franchise opportunities, Shannon may be a good resource for you just to have a conversation and say, hey, I want to kind of get out on my own. I'm done having somebody else be my boss. Reach out to me. I'll get you in contact with her. Brian, we know you're on social media. We know you're on TikTok. You can find Brian at Brian's Bourbon Review on TikTok. Any other spots, Brian?
Oh, that's it. I don't have anything else. I'm old, and I went from MySpace to Facebook to TikTok. I don't have Instagram. I don't have Snapchat. I don't have none of that stuff.
But he does have a fireman's calendar with him on it, ladies. Just understand that. It's just him wearing a mustache. Understand that's all it is. Him wearing a mustache, ladies. Now, look, I know Brian's listened to plenty of shows before. He knows how this is going to go. So I'll let Brian do it first because I don't think Shannon's prepared yet. Now, at the end of every episode, and don't log off on me after this, at the end of every episode, the guest always gets the final word. Brian, what is your final word for tonight?
Oh, man. Be humble and love people.
All right, I like it. Shannon?
Be kind to each other no matter what, and always hug your puppy.
All righty, folks. Be sure to push your stool in.
This has been a Second Front podcast presentation found on Apple, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found.